Hello,
Hi, this is Kathy.
it's Nicholas.
Hi, Nick. I'm going to rename you. I think you're iPad 102. I think that might be you.
Hello,
Hi,
hello,
Kathy.
it's Nicholas.
Hi, Nick. We're trying, just to let you know, we are trying YouTube Live that will stream our board meeting, but there's a delay, so it's kind of odd. So I might get some feedback in regards to I turned off my volume on YouTube Live. I'm gonna make Brian oh, where are you, Brian? I'm gonna make you a co-host.
Morning, everybody.
Hi, Brian.
Nick, how have you been?
Good, thank you. And you?
Pretty great.
Hey guys.
Someone else just joined us, but I have no video. So, oh, it's Casey. I'm gonna rename you, or you can rename yourself, but I'll rename
Okay.
Good morning, Casey.
Brian.
Good morning. Nick, how are you? Happy
Good,
Monday.
thank you. Yes.
So, Brian, can you see the YouTube Live?
Yeah,
It's delayed.
it's delayed by about 15 seconds.
Yeah, it's kind of bizarre.
I have to turn it down. It's really weird listening to you like a couple minutes later.
Today,
I know. And then seeing me, I'm like, wait, I just did that.
Well, that's great. That looks cool.
Yeah. So how do we put that on our website so they can just go to the streaming?
I could probably. Oh man, I'm hearing myself. Hang on, I gotta mute that other screen.
Yeah, I just muted it.
There we go. Oh, you're blurry again.
Yeah, Kathy, you're,
I know. I'll just go
blurry.
out and then come back in.
Okay.
I don't know why it does that from time to
Well, now
time.
you're fine.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the camera or what.
Oh, my camera's off. Okay, so we can
Or scratched my eyebrow.
we can embed this page on our website, or we can just put a link to it. I don't know if we can edit. Can we edit the? Think about long-term.
We're
What-
trying,
what-
guys. We're
what are you
trying
doing
something
YouTube
new.
for?
We put the YouTube thing in there.
For what's the purpose of it for? Why?
So that people don't have to zoom in, they can just watch it as a live link, and then that way we can link it. We could even do it on our Facebook page. Oh, I don't want to do that.
Hello, Judith.
Hi, how are you, Nick?
Good, thank you. And you?
Fine, thanks. Just setting in this morning to help me bring myself up to speed.
Good luck.
There's a quiz at 8:20.
Yeah, great.
So Brian, if you go into, I made you co-host, and if you go into, where did that go? Hold on. Down at the bottom, it says edit video. Do you see that on the YouTube page?
Oh, on the YouTube page, or no, I don't think I see.
Because
I
it's
don't think I
account.
see the video stream. Yeah, because it's your account.
Yeah. I just
But we can.
for TCSOS. I don't know what that meant. So when I go into edit video, we've got 1 minute. It actually has a video link that's a short video link.
I copied that. You can up on the top left corner. There's live on YouTube, and you can click that and say copy streaming link, and then
Okay.
you can paste that. So that's the link. I can post that. I could post that on the site. Trying to think of the best place to do that.
Isn't there?
The options of allowing embedding is on there. So,
Yeah, I have easy ways to embed YouTube videos, but it's just the like
So-
where we put it, right? As far as in our
yeah. Well, I have a YouTube channel apparently. I never knew I did.
Oh,
I have it from when I created a curriculum day for the Red Hills for Chinese Camp School with Sherry Betts' class. So, okay, I'm going to start the board the committee meeting though. So
Okay.
maybe we can play with that.
yeah, I'll play around with it. I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay. And I'm gonna make that YouTube video small so I don't get confused watching myself in delayed time. So it's kind of bizarre. So welcome to let me see, we're gonna do a call to order at 8:15, and I'll be taking notes for this meeting. Maybe. No. And we have on our charter school committee, I saw Nick here. Nick is here.
I'm here.
And Casey Littleton is here. And Rose. Rose is right there in the middle. Okay. So we have everybody from the committee. Is there any public comment? No public comment. So, and just as a reminder, I can send out the guidelines for how committee work works, but you are always welcome to attend any committee, but you are treated like, unless you're on the committee, you are like a member of the public. And so, if we were doing this in person, you would actually sit out in the audience and we would be up at the regular place where we sit. But since we're here, and you can sit in on any committee meeting you want. And so this is one of several committees we have. So we're going to go to our first and our only discussion item, which is I wanted to review with you. And if you click on the item, you can download the 2 documents that I provided. And the one that I'm really going to focus on this time, and this is just a discussion item, is the guide from Burke, Williams, and Sorensen. And that's the summary of major changes to petition review and the appeal process and criteria under AB 1505, which really is the one that's going to, that's the one that just came into effect July 1, and that will affect any petitions that get heard by this board on appeal moving forward. The last week was the State Board of Education meeting where the commission that had made the recommendation to the State Board of Education to deny the petition for PEA heard the CDE recommendation, heard my statement, heard the Twain Harte School statement, and they made a decision to unanimously uphold the decision or the recommendation to deny the charter school appeal from Pinecrest Expedition Academy. That was heard under the old rules because that's when the petition started and that's when the application was made to be heard at the state level. From this point forward, anything else that is heard will be under this new law, AB 1505. If you recall at the last in person when we were talking about the retreat, which is happening today at 9, we were going to have AALRR, Scott Holbrook come and do a very thorough review of AB 1505 and AB 1507, which went into effect in January. AB 1507 put a moratorium on independent study only charter schools. And then following that was AB 1505, which was effective now. Just some things to keep in mind that may affect some implementation of these laws. With the pandemic, we have had a significant number of charter schools close their doors because of a variety of reasons. Some of them were on the edge of fiscal solvency and felt that they could not meet the needs of their students under the pandemic guidelines. Some of them were heard in the July State Board of Education meeting, and when they did their budget evaluation under the initial one that they submitted back before the May revise, they were solvent. They recalculated according to the governor's May revise that made them all of a sudden insolvent. But as we know, the budget did not reflect the governor's May revise. So many of those charter schools were approved. A lot of them were renewal petitions. So these are charters that have been going for a while and they were up for renewal and they had been denied at the district and the county level. Many of those were actually approved. One of the things that everyone is grappling with is the hold harmless provision in the budget. And the hold harmless provision was really designed to support districts that are going to or have lost students over the last few years. And California in general is losing students. However, there are certain districts that are located in certain parts of the state that are actually growing. So their statement was, well, what about us? Because within that are a lot of charter schools. And to give you some idea of what's happening with charter school enrollment is it's going up, up, up. Our local charter schools, Gold Rush, Mountain Oaks, Hickman, they all have wait lists for going into their homeschool, home study type programs. There seems to be some confusion about what is distance learning and what is independent study and what is homeschool. And I think that's a reflection of some poor agreements that people have about what are the definitions of those terms. But while many people might think a lot of the students are going into these home study charter schools because their parents don't want them at school because they're afraid of becoming exposed to the virus, the reality is more than half of them are enrolling in charter schools because they simply refuse to mask their students when at school. And I've had a lot of time to reflect on this. If you're asking the State Board of Education to meet virtually, if you've closed your legislative branch for 2 weeks and aren't coming back until the end of July, and when the California Department of Education is completely shut down and they're working remotely, why on earth would you have kids or students, why would you have students or staff coming back to a school environment? If the top California Department of Education office is not even operational now, how could you possibly expect kids and teachers to come back? But how could you expect them to come back without wearing proper PPE and taking precautions? It just baffles me. So they have a right to enroll in a charter school. They have a right to fill out a private school affidavit and enroll in that environment if they want to. What some of them have called me for is they want to, and this is what will be addressed a little bit in 1505, AB 1505, is they want to have the charter schools that pay them money to go to charter school. So there's a charter school that's all virtual. It's called Connecting Waters. It's out of Stanislaus. It's down through a district down there. And they have a lot of students that are enrolled in a homeschool model. And what they do is they provide what they call a stipend to the families per child so that they can purchase curriculum and technology and set up a classroom environment at their home. That has been deemed a gift of public funds, and so that's working its way through legislation and is a little bit reflected in 1505. We expect that to be cleaned up in the coming years. Hickman does not offer that kind of incentive. What they do is I believe they provide a technology piece only, a computer, because it is home-based, and same thing with Mountain Oaks. So that's part of the conundrum parents are having right now. So I'm gonna stop before I dive into the 3-page document to review with you what are the petition review and appeal process new requirements. Any questions on what I've just shared?
No,
So the first piece that was changed in under AB 1505 is what we call the material revision requirements. One of the conversations at the State Board of Education in regards actually to Pinecrest was a change in the budget that was submitted from the time of the initial petition that was presented to Twain Harte to the State Board of Education. And what the State Board of Education had done with the CDE in their evaluation is they had removed a $250,000 loan that they hadn't actually secured. They said you can't include something in a budget that you actually don't have in your hands or have a note saying, yeah, you're gonna get this money. So, but they had done a revision, and so the question was that a material revision? Because if it's a material revision, it shouldn't have even been agendized at the State Board of Education. But they can make a material revision to their charter, but what they've done is that if they want to expand grade levels, that the charter school has to request a material revision. They can't just add grade levels like they've done before. So that is now considered a material revision. The question on the budget was questionable, and they were debating, and they need to research that somewhere, they said. So a material revision right now would be, for example, if a charter school wanted to add another site, another school site, and expand, but if they want to do a grade level, they can't just add a grade level, they actually have to expand. Have to do a material revision. Now there's a lot of misinformation about can a charter school open with grade levels by, so for example, let's say a charter school, Gold Rush Charter, they are currently outside of the district boundary that has authorized them. So when their petition comes up for renewal, Somerville High can deny the petition based on that they're outside of their district boundaries. And there could be a challenge from the districts in which Gold Rush resides, which are Sonora High School District and Curtis Creek School District. In fact, they use one of the former school sites that was part of the Curtis Creek School District. None of the programs that Gold Rush offer are actually located in the Somerville High School School District, which authorized them, because that was permitted. So when they're up for renewal in about 2.5 years, the Somerville High School Board can deny them. So there seems to be some misunderstanding that people say, well, they can't go to Curtis Creek because Curtis Creek is only a K-8 school. No, they can go to Curtis Creek. All that the law says is that the charter school has to encompass some of the grade levels that are being offered by that district. So Gold Rush is a TK through 12 program. Curtis Creek is a TK through 8. So yes, they can be not only just TK through 8, they can also add the 9 through 12. So they can be authorized by an elementary school district or a high school district. And we have 3 types of districts in our county. We have elementary school districts like Curtis Creek. We have high school districts like Sonora High School, Union High School District. And then we have one unified school district, and that's Big Oak Flat Groveland, which is a K-12, and that's the only one we have. So that's a material revision addition that was made. The next one, it doesn't affect county offices as much as it affects districts. So when a district received a charter school petition, they needed to hear they needed to schedule and hold the public hearing within 30 days after receiving the petition. And then within 60 days, they had to make a decision on whether or not to approve the petition. County offices always had the 60 days and the 90 days. And what they did is they expanded that to include districts. So now districts can hold the public hearing and take up to 60 days, that's 60 calendar days to hold that public hearing. So that's 2 months. So you can see how this pushes out the process and how you're going to probably receive charter school petitions at the district level pretty close to the September timeline, so that if they have to do an appeal, they can get it in before the end of the year. So if it goes to the state board, they can get there before July for a next year opening. And then remember, each one stands on its own. So wherever date they submitted it, that 60 days is here. And then that 90 days, which is 3 months, they can make a deadline that's the deadline to grant or deny the petition. A lot of school districts had a process where they submitted the petitions at a board meeting. That was part of their requirement. So at the next regularly scheduled board meeting, we will accept the petition. Now that has been changed to the petition is deemed received when submitted to the district office with certification that the petitioner deems it to be complete. And that's really critical. So there's a lot of districts and county offices, we're one, that really work with petitioners to say, are you sure you have everything in? Do you have all of your signatures? Do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have this? You don't have to do that. And some districts are really hands-off. They say, you're certifying this is complete. Is it complete? And if they say yes, they mark it submitted, and then they start their review. And if through that process they find something missing from their petition, that's grounds to dismiss the petition. So that I think we'll see more of in districts not working necessarily with charter schools. And I actually don't disagree with them in some respect, because if you're saying you're ready to open a school, you better be able to know how to submit a petition that's complete. Because I can tell you the State Board of the CDE and the feds, they don't, they like their paperwork as well. So this is a process that they're gonna have to be much more attentive to, especially our kind of our homegrown charter school people. The board has to publish the staff recommendations, and if it's a county appeal, the county superintendent financial certification, and I'll talk about what that is in a minute, no less than 15 days before the public hearing at which the board grants or denies the petition. Now, if you recall, on our appeals, we try to release the findings, the summary of findings, as soon as possible before the board meeting. But the requirement is you only have to do it, if it's a regularly scheduled board meeting, 72 hours beforehand. If it's a special board meeting, you only have to do that 24 hours ahead of time. Well, now this law has taken that away so that the petitioner can prepare when you have that recommendation, when you have that meeting to grant or deny the petition, they have a chance to prepare and be able to submit an argument against those findings, making it a little more fair. We've tried very hard to try and get our staff recommendations about a week ahead of time before the meeting. Because of those timelines being so short, it's always a challenge. So this puts an extraordinary burden on district staff, especially small districts and small county offices. Also at the meeting, the petitioner shall have equal time at the public hearing at which the board grants or denies the petition to present evidence and testimony to respond to staff findings and recommendations. In our process that we have right now, we invite the petitioner to come to a board meeting before that meeting to approve or deny the petition, to come and present. And we usually limit that time to 15 minutes. And then at the meeting where the board makes the decision to approve or deny it, they are usually part of public comment themselves. And they have whatever limit we put on public comment. And at the last one, I believe we had a 2-minute limit of public comment. This changes that says that whoever is deemed the representative of the petitioner, and usually in larger type of situation, county offices or in districts, it's an attorney representing the petitioner. Sometimes it's the person themselves who wrote the petition. They can present their arguments against the staff findings and recommendation, or support the staff findings and recommendation if it's a recommendation to approve. So those are the big changes for the public hearing and the deadlines. And if you recall, we were thinking of changing our policy to have our submission of petitions at a regularly scheduled board meeting. And when we took a look at it, we said, let's not change that because we're not going to be able to do that. So any questions on that part?
Seems pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Clear, yes.
Okay. So in addition, in order to address some of the inequities that they were seeing in charter schools, and this was one of the main reasons AB 1505 came through, was the question about services being provided to special education students, EL, including redesignated EL, and also the racial ethnic balance requirement. So now that actually is a requirement, that is one of the elements now of a petition. And in fact, the State Board of Education remarked upon that in the Pinecrest petition, that they were concerned, even though it wasn't under AB 1505, they were remarking that if it was under AB 1505, the concern was they did not address special education pupils or students from low-income families either, because of they were talking about the lack of busing and free and reduced lunches and things like that. So now that is going to actually be a requirement. Just so we're clear, if a student shows up to a charter school and wants to enroll, the charter school is required to enroll them. There is no test that a student has to take. There's no performance a student has to give. There's no, well, let's see what your IEP says and see if we can actually serve you here. None of that actually is applicable. However, that is done quite often in charter schools. So part of this process is saying a charter school is a public school. If you have room, based on the numbers that you said you can support in the grade levels, everybody gets to come in. Everybody. If you're a student and you want to enroll in a charter school, you can enroll. And if you're denied, then that opens the door to all sorts of complaints.
Question on that. Forgive my ignorance on this. I thought Connections Academy, you have to do some kind of audition or something to be in that.
They don't. A student doesn't have to audition for anything.
Okay. But
It's
Connections
been,
Academy.
it's been actually, that particular requirement has been struck down by in a court of law. So
Gotcha.
just telling you, that's not required.
Makes sense. Seems like if you're doing especially like a music only one, you'd have some kind of music skills to go into it, right? I mean,
Right. And it's a fair question. Why would you enroll in a performing arts charter school if you don't want to do performing arts? I can tell you why people do it, because I heard him talk about it one time. A bunch
my
of
friends were there.
parents said they wanted their kids at Somerville High because they were 7th and 8th graders and they wanted them in high school math. And so, kid, you're going to take the drums and you're going to sing and you're just going to deal with it because I want you in high school math. I heard the parents talking about it right in front of me. And then they realized who I was, and then they laughed and they said, well, now you found our secret. I said, it wasn't that much of a secret. I already knew you were doing it. But that's why some parents do that. The poor kid has to be in, band or whatever, singing and dancing. That's the reality. If you have a charter school, anybody can enroll. That's the rule. And you can't, and especially this one where I've heard some charter schools say, well, we don't serve students with that disability. Oh, yes, you do. Yes, you do. You serve every kid that walks into your school.
So
And if a student walks in with a disability like vision impairment, you have to hire a VI teacher and you have to provide those services.
So what's criteria they have to use for selecting students? First come, first serve? I mean,
they can have some preferences, and that has to do with the number of students that are, so the founders have some preferential enrollment. Also siblings of students that are already enrolled, so sibling sets usually have preference as well. And then students who live in the attendance area where the charter school is located, if it's not a county-wide benefit, those will have preferential. But basically, it's if you walk up to a charter school, you can enroll.
I was wondering, because I mean, I'm hearing Ron's got like a couple hundred kids on his wait list. I don't know the validity behind all that, but how's he going to pick who gets to go next?
Oh, they have to do a lottery system.
Okay.
And basically, it's like a lottery system. Like if
Okay.
they could do balls, they would have it in a little thing and then pull out like a bingo number.
That'd
That's
be
how they would do that. But they usually, that's how they do. They put names on slips of paper and they pull the names until all the slots are full.
We can put
And
it
then
on
they can
live
do it by
YouTube.
grade level.
Live TV, number 22.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's kind of how they do it, and it's a big deal, like especially in places like New York. Yeah. So
Okay. Thank you.
and he might. I talked to him. I'm gonna say Friday, maybe Thursday, and he was asking me about whether or not he should enroll because normally his enrollment for independent studies starts in the fall, right? And I said, do you have space? And he said yes. And I said, and they're asking to enroll? And he said yes. And I said, so what do you think I'm going to say? I should enroll them. I said, yes, that's what I'm going to say. You have space, you need to enroll them. You don't get to pick and choose. Unless you're full, then you put them on a wait list, and then when you have an opening, you do a lottery. Or they can do a lottery and do keep that as well. So another requirement is that they have to grant the petition to be consistent with the interest of the community in which the school is proposing to locate. And so there has to be a reason why that charter school is needed in that community. That was never a ground for denial of a charter school petition before. Is, well, geez, here's another, we have 5 visual and performing arts charter schools and a high school that offers visual and performing arts. Here comes another charter school that wants to have visual and performing arts. That used to be never a consideration that you could use for denial. Now that is a condition that you can use for denial. You can say that, you know what, it is not going to provide anything additional or something that is spectacular to the students of that community. That's a hard one to prove. So you have to make sure that if you're going to deny a petition on that reason, you've really done your research on that. And the same thing if you're going to grant that petition. So what happens to a county office that approves a petition on denial? Let's say a district denies it and says, nope, we've got enough visual and performing arts schools in our county or in our district boundaries, we're good, we don't need another one, let's deny it. And then it comes to appeal on the county. Well, the county can approve it, and then what you could have is a potential lawsuit from a district to a county saying you did not consider this, that it was going to harm the district, that it was a replication of services. So you really have to do your research on that one. In addition, the additional grounds for appeal is that, so it has to have a consideration of fiscal impact. And that makes a big impact on our districts that are in what we call qualified status. So at first interim, so they submit a budget and we either approve their budget and say you're good to go. We approve their budget with additional information that we need, a qualified approval, so to speak, so that they have to do some additional work to say, okay, we think you're okay, but we need to see this, this, and this because we're not quite sure. And then the other one is disapproved. If the budget is just way out of whack or doesn't make sense or it doesn't follow reality, they didn't use the assumptions from the state that they were supposed to, we can disapprove it and then they have to rework their budget and submit it. So then when we get to first interim, what we do is then we look again at their budgets. Okay, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? And so those budgets then go into what we call either they're positive, which means you're doing great, stay on track. Qualified, which means we have some concerns here. You're either overspending or your revenue's not coming in, like if your enrollment dropped quite a bit, or you can be in negative, which means that, so you got qualified and you've got negative. Negative means that in 3 years, you're gonna be, in 1 year, you're gonna be broke. You have no money next year if you keep spending like this. And so you've got to come up with you got to spend better. You got to come up with a fiscal recovery plan. Sonora High was in that position a couple of years ago, if you remember, or a few years ago now. So when we analyze these petitions, when they come to appeal, when they go to the district and when they come to appeal, we have an obligation to do a thorough budget analysis. If they are in qualified status and it puts them into negative status, that's a reason for denial. We can deny that petition. And so if you look at, if it says additional grounds for denial, and if you look down at the one, it says the school district is not positioned to absorb the fiscal impact of the charter school. And so you got to look at their last interim, or you have to do the analysis of that. So if they have a negative, if it's going to put them into negative, it's automatically going to be denied. And so that's called a presumption of denial. If it puts them into qualified status, then you can look at other things as well. So that used to never be considered. The reason we mentioned budget when we look at approval of petitions like we did for Pinecrest was, what's the likelihood of it going to succeed? Well, we had problems with the educational program, but the likelihood of it not succeeding was also poised on its budget, right? They were simply not going, they were in a negative fund balance in the first year. So they weren't going to be able to make payroll. So the likelihood of them being able to succeed was low. Now this takes that completely off and we just look at it in regards to how is it going to affect the school district that it's pulling from? Is it going to move its status into negative? So anyhow, that's an important piece that was added. So if we go down to the next section on county board appeals, the submission of appeal of denial to the county board is 30 days. So they have 30 days to submit to the county board. We remand the petition to the school district that denied it if the petition contains new immaterial terms. So let's say they come and they say to the district, I want to open a K-5 charter. Nope, you're denied. And it comes to us and it's a K-6. That's automatically remanded back to the district. It's like, I can't consider it, it's like a brand new petition. You got to go back to the district to do that. So then the school district shall grant or deny the appeal petition within 30 days. And if denied, then they resubmit the appeal to the county board. So these things can tick-tock back and forth for a while if they do any kind of big changes to their petition. And then we'll still consider appeal under the traditional standards. One of the things that we need to also consider is was the petition process properly executed? Think of it like an expulsion hearing. You overturn expulsions. I haven't ever seen this board ever have an expulsion appeal to it, but the only reason you consider an appeal or an overturning of an expulsion is because there was a procedural irregularity. And that's really important because that's what we're looking at now as well. Did the district, if a charter comes on appeal to us, and the state board will do it as well with us, if they're looking at that irregularity, a procedural irregularity, that's an issue. So they have to make sure they have everything in place. All their postings, their timelines, And it's an expensive proposition because usually to do that right, you're using an attorney to help you with that information. So the state board now has a little bit of a different role. Again, the petitioner can appeal, so county board denies it, so what happens now? Well, the petitioner can appeal within 30 days to the State Board of Education. This part, we can still do a written submission to State Board of Education, and the school district and county board must, within 10 days of approval, prepare the documentary record and transcript of public hearing, of which the denial. So now we usually do that the next day. So that's not going to impact us much. Now, if you're a district or a county that's receiving a lot of charters, you're basically writing board minutes right after each board meeting and after every special board meeting. It gets to be quite an ordeal for them. If it goes to the State Board of Education and the petitioner has made substantial changes, then it goes back to, and it goes back to the school district. And it goes again through that whole entire process. They have to grant or deny the petition within 30 days. And at that point, it goes back to the state board if they deny it, and that means that they either hear or just deny the appeal. And if they hear it and they affirm the determination of the school district or county board, that will be most likely what will happen, because the state board has no discretion in, you know what, I actually think this is a really good petition and I'd love to see that in place and I love that idea and I'm going to go ahead and overrule, and that happens. I hear those conversations, and that's why you got to show up to your hearings and your meetings. But in this place, the state board has been, there was a big question about why is the state board denying local determinism. And so they removed that ability from the state board to do that decision making. There has to only be an abuse of discretion. So basically they didn't follow, the district or the county did not follow procedure. They just outright abused their power basically in making that determination. And then also the last bullet there talks about that they're out of the business of reviewing and approving charter schools. They don't want to have anything to do with charter schools. They have 20-some charter schools that they've approved on appeal, and they don't want to do any more of the reviews. They don't want to operate any charter schools. They don't want to be the authorizer anymore. And having been the authorizer, I understand why they don't want to be the authorizer. And so they're going to designate a local authorizer. So that means that if a charter school is approved at the State Board of Education level, somehow it makes it through all of that, and it's approved, they're going to designate that local authorizer. We don't know what that looks like yet. We don't know if you can simply say, yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't have the capacity, so no. They might not give you the ability to say no. Yeah, well, you're the county office, so you're going to do it. And so we'll see how that works out when the first one comes. Hopefully not us. Just having been the authorizer, just finished closing FLA, I think last week. It all blurs the weeks, but it's taken us over a year to close FLA, if you recall. Just some other things. Teachers have to be fully credentialed. That means all teachers by 2025. And it doesn't mean they can keep hiring uncredentialed teachers. It simply means that they're going to have, they have to have a plan in place to get their existing teachers fully credentialed. And right now they have to be fully credentialed in what's called core subjects, but no one ever defined core subjects. So we've always taken that to mean English language arts, math, social studies, science, but actually there's nothing in the language that says those are core subjects. So that will be a source of contention, especially when they use folks that are, really amazing people that have great backgrounds that you want. You want the person who was on stage in New York performing, teaching your drama classes, right? That's who you want. I mean, somebody who has that experience. But now they have to be credentialed. So that will,
for the appropriate multi-subject or single subject.
whatever they're teaching.
Okay, so same laws.
Teaching drama, it's drama. If it's
Yeah.
yeah. And it really does affect those that are teaching the electives. That's where we mostly see that happening. There's the other piece, that other bullet. If they're located outside the boundaries of their authorizer, and I mentioned that with Gold Rush and Somerville High, and within the county, so they're okay, they're in the county, but they're not in the district of Somerville High who authorized them. They have to obtain the written approval of or submit the renewal request to the school district of location to continue operating at the out of jurisdiction charter school. So they have no, Somerville has no authority to grant them a renewal. And that's how I'm reading it, and we'll look for, we'll be watching that situation very carefully.
So the admin credential rules will also be in place then?
Admin?
Admin?
Critical?
Yeah.
No.
So the
You
principal
can
doesn't
still-
have an admin credential, really?
You can still operate a charter school and not, yeah, and a lot of them don't even have a teaching credential. That's why they don't have an admin credential. Because to have an admin credential in California, except for some rare exceptions, you have to have taught at least 5 years.
Right.
So a lot of times you have people who come in are CEOs. They might have a master's of education, but they don't have an admin credential because they don't have a teaching credential.
Gotcha. Huh. Okay.
And then the last one is just a reminder, the non-classroom based charters, that has a moratorium through January 22. Unless they are an existing non-classroom based charter, they can, like Hickman approached, was talking to us, I've got 4 minutes, was talking to the county office, and I worked with Curtis Creek School District because Hickman sits in the Curtis Creek School District. They're authorized out of Stanislaus. Hickman became one of the first charter, whole district charter schools in the state. And Stanislaus County oversees them, and they have a center up here. And that technically will not be okay under the renewal. But what they can do is they can apply to be a new charter school, even though they're non-classroom based instruction, because they were grandfathered in. And so Paul was debating, do I apply for that charter school up here and become a charter management authorizer organization through Hickman? Do I want to do that? Or can I get an agreement in place with Curtis Creek, and will Curtis Creek allow me to be there? And I said, Curtis Creek might be open to an agreement if you have a cap on the number of students in your center. I said that might be worth for them talking to, because those parents don't want to go to Curtis Creek. They want to be homeschooled. The parents are very engaged in their kids' education. They want to be homeschooling parents. That's what Hickman's program's all about. So it's less than 100 kids. It's more like 80 students are in that program. It's not a huge impact because they pull a few from every district. They have some that are from out of the area, as a matter of fact. Their parents come up here and work, and so they bring their kid up for the day for their class. It's an independent study model, homeschool model. And so they worked on an MOU, and I know they had a draft, and then everything went crazy, and so I don't know if they had ever approved that. So those are the major changes under AB 1505. The chart that I gave you from Burke, Williams, and Sorensen really summarizes that very well. The AALRR charter booklet, that's our attorney, where Scott Holbrook comes from, that gives you all of the laws and regulations that, it actually gives you the actual section and ed code language that applies to it. So, and if you look along this side, it gives you like a little summary of what that topic is. So that also helps you if you want to pull out that language. We'll take a look, I think, at our next charter school meeting. I have to switch over to the next board meeting, guys, because I use 2 different logins, and I don't want to be late on that one. But we'll look at charter schools at our language and our policy at our next charter school meeting. Would that be okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to end this meeting right now. I'm sorry. I know you probably have questions, but we have to start our next board meeting in less than a minute.
Right. See
Do
there.
we need to log out and log in again?
Yes, you have to log into the new login for that. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.